Last time on the 40/40.
Now that we knew we couldn't do the river crossing, we had to hike Lightning Lakes all the way around to Raid Basin. It was just some of the most difficult travel.
On the snowpack and traveling on your snowshoes with heavy packs.
It opened up to Raid Basin, and Raid Basin is just beautiful.
It's all about the fun, right?
This is supposed to be a small stream.
I don't think we expected it to be this big.
We came to this river crossing that was pretty intimidating.
We literally had to make a decision.
We either can go across this river, or you try to go that way. You can walk like 3 miles out of the way.
We're gonna make this an exercise on hearing the voice of the Lord, guys.
After Sean and Josh checked it out,
We decided that we'd pray and make this a group decision.
The water was moving pretty fast and there was snow just floating in it, so you knew it was gonna be pretty cold.
Like we have a Red Sea that needs to part.
Do you guys want to cross today or in the morning?
Well, let's just go pray about it again.
I just kept hearing like press on.
We're just supposed to go as soon as possible.
Raise your hand if it's today.
And it was almost unanimous to cross that day.
I just hope that our hearts are in the right place and it's not about adventure.
This is disconcerting because like I didn't hear, but like I sensed. Seems like the Lord has something for our hearts here to sit and wait.
It was really brave of him to say that, you know, because he was the only one.
Like I just don't know what's going on.
Ethan didn't necessarily hear that we weren't supposed to cross, but we're gonna go with the majority.
I was one of the first guys across.
there was a possibility of us falling in. It went up to about waist level.
We should know that we're taking a step in faith.
It was probably the coldest water I'd ever been in.
The truth is, even if we do cross and we're on itinerary, because of these raging rivers, we could get turned back.
Like go back out to like Scad Creek?
Yeah.
What? And putting on the new, which is Christ in you. But the only way to do this is what it's saying, is to let Christ in you rise up, because you can't do it on your own. Only He can do it.
Today we were behind schedule from yesterday. To be on itinerary, we had to hike 9 miles today.
And from here to about right here where we are, which is about half mile, you'd say, Josh?
Yeah.
It took us 1 hour and 18 minutes. Snowshoeing. So much fun.
And I'd see like the scouters in the distance and they'd still be going uphill.
It was a pretty rough day.
We stopped for like 30 minutes for lunch and that was it. And we just went hard to like 5.
We just marched straight up this big hill, just full of snow with our snowshoes, post-holing everywhere.
It's pretty harsh terrain with all the snow and all the snow melt.
We are behind itinerary due to no fault of the group.
We made it a good ways. We didn't fully make it the 9 miles.
It just slowed everything down a ton.
So we broke out the maps and...
From here to here, guys, is 25 miles. And what's in between from here to here? A lot of snow.
The terrain is just that much harder.
We can't do 6 miles a day for 4 more days in a row like this. Like, our bodies just won't do it.
Everybody stay at elevation. I think we're gonna have to go back.
Why did God let us get across the river? Josh and I were talking about how strong this group is. The conditions are just too challenging.
When Josh really laid it out on the map, not making a couple miles will really set you back.
Well, remember, it's not how we start, it's how we finish.
Turned out that we just had to turn back.
It's kind of a downer having to backtrack through your trails and whatnot, but I think it'd be a good thing because we'd be able to do solos and get some more time with God.
So 2 days ago, we came to this river crossing back here. It's behind me. And the LOD of the day, Sean, was working with our instructor Josh to decide if we should try and cross it or not, because it's fairly high. Sean decided that we should all pray about it, spend some time and asked the Lord to tell us. And so we all went off on our own and asked the Lord to tell us.
You guys remember when we prayed about crossing the river? And remember, all of us, like, we felt like the Lord said cross, right? And then we kind of hit a wall and we were like, man, we could do it, but we just don't feel right in forfeiting the solo, as well as it'd be way too exhausting for us to continue at that pace for the next 24 days, right? Because we know the mountaineering section is going to be very challenging. And we need to use this time to really seek the Lord and just, that's why we're here, right? And Ethan got an interesting word.
As I was praying about it, I heard the Lord, like I felt his presence, and I heard the Lord saying, I've prepared a place for you here. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something for us here. Like, that's what I knew. And so I thought maybe, I guess that means stay. So I come back and I'm like, and something else that was impressed upon my heart is that I needed to, I felt like the Lord was like, Ethan, if I tell you something and everyone else has something else, will you go ahead and say it? Like, I had this sense of like, will you believe me even when it seems like you didn't hear from me? Is kind of the sense. Or like, if everyone else disagrees, will you stick with what you've heard? And I was like, yeah, Lord, I will. But I come back and I say, I think we need to stay here. But everyone else, except for like one other person, were like, I think we should cross today. So the group was unanimous at this point, and I was still thinking we were supposed to stay, and that was kind of hard. But the leaders decided that we were going to cross, and I figured that the Lord always honors authority. And so I was like, I guess I'm going to need to go with it. And I kept feeling this in my heart, that there was something. And when I went and prayed back the second time, I felt like maybe there was somebody that needed something changed in their heart, or that needed prayer. And so before anything else, I was like, guys, does someone need prayer? Is there something that someone needs in their heart? Because I'm really feeling that. And no one said anything, so I was just like, okay, whatever. But there was a person on my mind specifically at that point, like that I felt like the Lord was bringing to my mind, and that was Tasha.
I really wanted to say something, and but I'm not like really good about like bringing like my issues into attention in front of other people, just because I struggled with like just self-reliance and like not showing weakness. So and that was something like the Lord was working on with me that day. But and so I didn't say anything, and then we crossed the river, which went really good. But Ethan came up to me afterwards and was like, I just feel a strong need to like pray for you. Is that okay?
She's like, well, yeah, I mean, I always need prayer, but then she shared something more specific that that she'd been dealing with today, like after she had a fall that day, and there was something kind of going on spiritually, and she just sort of started tearing up.
I remember when he put his hand on my shoulder, like I just felt God kind of touching me, and not in like a not really like a powerful way, but more of like a gentle like tenderness, and so it was just really humbling, and I felt just, I guess, really special that day, like with the Lord, and the fact that he used Ethan to kind of come through him was really cool.
And I prayed for her for that, and I felt like the Lord really kind of worked through me there, and I was like, okay, maybe that's what the Lord had for me. I don't know. Maybe that's what the Lord had for us. So we crossed, we hiked for a day, we got to our next camp, and then the snow conditions were too bad, and we didn't think we were really going to be able to make our ration and still have our solos and stay on an itinerary. And so after prayer and decisions, the leaders decided to bring us back. And the plan was to come back and camp somewhere around here, and then go to some lakes 6 miles that way and have our solos. But the leaders decided actually to have our solos here. And at that point they were reminded, as Josh said that the other night, he actually said, like, Ethan, now wait a second, this is interesting, because didn't the Lord say, I've prepared something for you here? And I really think the Lord was speaking to the whole group when I heard that, not just to me. That's why I didn't really feel like we should go across. But now we're back here on the same side of the river that the Lord spoke that, where he said, I've prepared a place for you here.
Did you realize that, dude?
I did. Yeah, I didn't want to say anything.
Isn't that wild?
Turning back was hard, I guess, and didn't really make sense to me at first. I thought we could just push through. I mean, it would take a little bit of extra effort. People would just have to, I guess, just man up and charge it, but probably wouldn't have been the best thing for the safety and the morale of the group. So we turned back, and at that point, I just realized that, like, what is this trip if we're just stuck to our own itinerary? So I'd much rather submit to God's itinerary. It started to rain on our way back, and it was cold and kind of a bummer, and was just really worn out. We had gone about 5 miles by that point, and I turn around and I see off in the distance in the mountains where we would have been walking if we had continued, and it was just a huge snowstorm.
To get back here, and then we remembered Ethan's word, you know, like the Lord has something for me here. And then for me specifically, just walk humbly with your God, you know, like, I get it now. Like, this is like a Humbelina moment for me.
It was definitely good that we turned back. God definitely had his hand in it, and we're all very blessed to be out of the snow right now.
So we want to now take you guys this solo from here, boom, to here. Everybody needs to be expecting something, because God uses the prophetic to foretell of something that he really wants to do, right? And that was a prophetic word to all of us. Yeah, please do.
I had something with brother that I just didn't say at the time because I didn't know if it was even relevant. But it was really something. Just expect big things from me. That's what he said.
So you guys, we're here. We're supposed to be here.
I think in the season before this, I had a hard time hearing the Lord. Maybe from my own distractions or from my own chaos and busyness of life. But I just couldn't hear him even when I was quiet. And so going into the solo, I'm really hoping that God just reveals himself to me and is able to speak to me, and I can hear his voice once again. And I don't know what great things ahead means. Maybe something in the solo, which I'm hoping for. That'd be pretty sweet.
One last thing, I want to just give opportunity. Is anybody just like nervous, scared?
It's really childish.
The dark?
No, you don't. I don't want to spend the night alone in the dark.
It's okay.
Like, it honestly has freaked me out since I was a kid.
You would not believe how many people I've seen on the solo that are they're scared of the dark. You know, they just don't like the dark. So that's okay.
Factor.
Right.
No, you know what? It's really cool. Last year we had a student who was fearful about spending the night alone, and we prayed over her like we'll pray over you. And the Lord met her so powerfully. Like, she said she felt his tangible presence.
I'm just hoping, you know, as I seek the Lord. I mean, honestly, I've never spent 2 days alone. Like, just for the purpose of seeking the Lord. Like, I've been alone for a few days, but never, like, out in the wilderness, and never with nothing, you know, and just by myself to seek the Lord. And I just really hope I hear from him. And I know there's some things that, like, I've been wanting to talk to him about. And so I am just going to walk humbly with my God right now.
So during the solo, we actually asked the students to write a letter from God to themselves, and we call it a love letter from God.
Just listen to the Holy Spirit and write a love letter to yourself from the Father.
What? Sorry.
Yep. And we're going to have you read it to the group, okay?
Sean gave us this idea.
Yeah, Sean gave us this idea. It's a great idea.
So in my testimony, I shared how I went through that period of cynicism, bitterness, and anger, and just being really critical about the church, not having a lot of friends, being kind of an idiot. And I came out of that, and then I went to Wyoming. But I really never forgave myself for that at all. And I was really struggling with it. And we had this guy's name is Vim DeBess. He came and spoke on the Father Heart of God. And I don't even know if it was his idea, but some of us did this exercise, a love letter from the Father. And the Lord really, it was one of the first times the Lord really clearly spoke to me. And it was like he just spoke to me through my moving hand, writing letters, like words. And I think we had like 30 or 40 minutes to do it. And I spent 25, 30 of those minutes just weeping. Because he really spoke to me. So, wow. And it wasn't elaborate. It was like, it was like 6 lines or something.
And just go, take the time, like say, okay, Lord, Father, I'm setting this time aside for you, and I'm ready to hear you speak. And just be ready with your pen and your paper, and just listen like we listened when we were wondering if we're going to cross the river or not. And he'll amaze you. He will amaze you. It blew me away that he spoke to me like he did. It blew me away that he spoke to me at all, never mind that it changed my life. It was a huge transition point for me. So just go and say, Lord, here I am. I'm ready to hear from you. Because the Father's always speaking, we just need to be listening. He's always ready to speak to us.
Does that help?
Yeah.
You can do it.
The biggest.
What if he doesn't say anything to me?
He'll speak to you.
Is that the root?
Huh?
Is that the biggest root?
Yeah.
If he doesn't say anything, then he doesn't. You know, he's God.
Fair. Okay.
You know, one thing that Josh and I do, we practice doing, just because, Father, you do need to understand that there's a two-way conversation. And so sometimes instead of saying, I love you, Father, we'll say, I love you too, Jesus. T-O-O, I love you too, Father. Because he's always speaking to us, I love you. So then you're responding back to his love. Because we can't love him unless he's loved us first. So it's kind of a powerful, intimate way to like be reminded that he's speaking to us when we say to him, I love you too, Father. I love you too, Jesus. Does that make sense?
Because when you say that I love you too, you're bypassing the everything, and you're already receiving his love. When I say I love you too, Amy, what I've already said and heard is she loves me. Does that make sense?
So today the solo begins, which is awesome. This is a pivotal time in the course, and today we woke up early and we have all of the students and the instructors, we also do a solo, gather together and we pre-cook all of the food for the solo. And the reason for this is that we're going to be dividing up cookware as well as tentware, so people need to have food already pre-cooked, like making your pancakes that you can eat cold. So only one person's going to have the stove, and the group has to determine who's going to be able to have the stove.
Preparing all of our meals for our solo. Right now we're working on dinner. We're making couscous. They're making some biscuits. and some nature burger, kind of make a vegetarian sort of burger, cheeseburger thing, which is going to be hopefully pretty good.
I'm making sure I got plenty of cocoa and plenty of coffee and tweezers to plug my eyebrows. I don't have a mirror.
Your eyebrows are going to look crazy when we get in.
Maybe I'll use my reflection of the lake.
This is going to be for our 48-hour solo, 36-hour solo.
Yeah,
so
it's calm right there.
whatever it is, whatever it's going to be, just our food for our individual food for on our way. Because we're not going to have a stove. So.
So waking up, we had to cook all our food before we go out on our solo, and for me it was kind of like a moment where it was like the calm before the storm, because you're making this food and you just know that you're just gonna be alone when you eat it. And so it's kind of like a little bit depressing, but you know, you put some extra care into it, maybe go a little bit slower, because I mean, that food's your only friend out there.
So we make the big flat cakes. So then on the solo, you can grab some brown sugar and spread it on top. You've got a good old breakfast for you.
It's neat how everything came together. So, and it's funny to like be back here, but be on the same like side of the river that we were initially. I thought like my normal self would be like very frustrated with turning back when we had to turn back, but I don't know. I just had a very like inner like peace about it.
So we're gonna have we're preparing for our solos right now. We're gonna go off into our solos, and I strongly believe that the Lord is going to like visit us each in our own way. He's gonna meet us, speak to us through His Word, and really just through our spirits.
So it was kind of like a relief in a sense. Just to be back here, it's just so beautiful, and it feels like something great happened here before, and I just think that like the Lord has greater things to be done here.
What I'm most excited about is just kind of what God did last night. That gets me excited because it was hard not to press on, but it's better in the long run because we know the mountaineering section is going to be more intense with the current snow conditions that are just 200% above normal. So it was cool because the Lord really confirmed it 3 days ago, saying, hey, there's something here for us, and we didn't know what that meant. But it's like the perfect training on how to hear the voice of the Lord and just really start living out of your spirit, man. And so I'm excited to see what He's gonna do here.
It's really cool. I'm just really honored that the Lord like chose to speak that to me, because like there's so many people in this group that I feel like are in better places with the Lord maybe, or you know, whatever, just like who are older and wiser, but the Lord just really entrusted me with that, and I'm glad that I was able to speak up, because it's kind of hard when everyone is hearing something else and you're hearing something that's seemingly opposed. It's harder to say, and also I'm not a person who's always used to just hearing God's voice like that, but there have been times throughout the years that I have. But traditionally, I try to stick more to the Word and just allow that. But to hear the Lord speak through your heart is a really humbling and like inspiring thing at the same time. And I'm just super grateful that He did that, and that He has prepared a place for us here.
Like, it really was a good confirmation and just brought a lot of peace, and I think there's gonna be some pretty significant stuff. You know, if we would have kept going, it would have probably lowered the elevation of the course because it had been so intense. We wouldn't have been able to continue to press in. You know, SRAM is good, but it's a means unto the end, and that's the glory of God. And so instead of just going hard, we're pulling back a little bit and just gonna let the Lord speak to everybody's heart.
I think for Ethan too, like one of his expressed desires was to be able to hear the voice of the Lord, and so it's so awesome to see the Father just really confirm that in an undeniable way, that I spoke to you, son, and it was different than everybody else, but it was me, and he affirmed him by bringing it to pass in a way that is undeniable, that it was the Father. And so that's what really, when Josh and I were talking about it last night, that's what really got us excited about being back here, is like, it's more important that a son comes to a realization of how much his Father loves him and understands the desire of his heart and speaks to him than for us to make it to Bald Mountain Basin, and so that was really a confirmation for us as instructors that although that was a hard decision, it was the best for the group, and it was actually what the Father had told us through Ethan. So it was really cool.
And everybody's learning this here, like out here it's just so beautiful and amazing, but at a point in time you can actually live under creation versus over creation. And as sons of God, as we step into our identities in Christ, you no longer live under creation. So when plans change, it doesn't determine your internal frame of reference. Like, your internal frame of reference is Christ. And so this is really, these last 5 days have been the Father's object lesson for us in learning how to live out of our spirit and put Christ as our internal frame of reference. And he's backing it up through these guys who are really stepping into new places and knowing him. And they're really learning how to be led by his spirit and make difficult decisions, like crossing the river, and even faith decisions. Like, there's a saying, like, faith spells risk, and faith that won't always make sense, because God doesn't always do things the way things add up in our minds. His thoughts aren't our thoughts, and his ways aren't our ways. But we're on a mission to make them that way. But the only way we're going to do that is when we start acting out in obedience. And obedience will not always make the most sense out of it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And so learning how to live over creation takes a lot of faith, a lot of obedience, and is a process of excitement, because you'll always find yourself back like, oh man, Lord, you are, and you had something more for us.
Sean had shared with us about having people sit down and write a letter from the Father, a love letter from the Father to the individual. And last night when we introduced the idea, I think some people were a little uncomfortable, because it's like, well, that's a little presumptuous, like a love letter from the Father to me. But I think it's going to be an awesome way to just affirm, the Father does love us, that's without a doubt, but to be able to hear him tell us that and then have to express it in words and share it with each other, I think is going to be a huge, I just have faith that it's going to be a huge blessing in just establishing sonship and the love of the Father over all of us. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it goes back to the I am statements. Your Father is the one who speaks identity over you.
Yeah.
And so many millennials, there's such an identity crisis because of the lack of fathering. It's a fatherless generation. So they try filling their identity with counterfeit identities. And there's only one true identity, and that's the eternal identity, because that's what's carried on, and the only way you get that is from your Father in heaven through Jesus Christ by the Holy Spirit. So when as everybody's making this transition from a believer to a disciple that's established in their sonship, they're really learning how to receive identity. It's like that saying, you can fish for someone, but then they'll never learn how to eat. If you teach them, you can give a man a fish, and they'll just eat. But if you teach them how to fish, then they'll be set for life. And that's pretty much what's going on here. So, and not to mention, we have wonderful pancakes. Look at this guy.
Woo! Let's flip that sucker.
Oh boy.
Here, you want me to hold it, or you got it? You got it?
What hand do I need to flip?
You should capture this. All right, let's see it.
Ready?
Yep.
Oh, Lozzie.
Oh, Prexy. Oh! Woo! Give it up. Nice.
So anyways, God's good and he loves us so much. So,
Amen.
you know, and for me personally, like, for 7 years I've been able to be like, boom, 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 this is how the 40 goes. This year, I couldn't tell you what tomorrow holds. And so, and I think a lot of, well, based on what I heard, everybody in the winds is kind of like, oh, this is an eye-opener. But it's cool because we're not, it's not about the programming. It's about Christ and his kingdom, the glory of God. And so no matter what comes our way, there's always a redemptive purpose in it. It's more beautiful now than ever.
Yeah. It's also been a growth experience, you know, just in the trusting of the Father. But I mean, it's a beautiful day in a beautiful place, and we're about to embark on a journey alone with God for a couple of days. So what more could we ask for?
I'm really excited for the solo. I really like to be alone, and I think that's like when I connect with God the most, especially like when I write and just like think instead of like really like be around a lot of people and talk about things, which is good too, but it's kind of a balance for me.
Last night worship was really great. I think everybody was kind of in the mindset of getting ready to go on the solo, so everybody was really seeking what God had for them.
Worship for me is a big thing. I really get energized and charged by the Holy Spirit. It's just overpowering and awesome, and being able to do that kind of recharges your spirit, makes you feel alive again, and makes you feel that God's there and just wants to hold you tight. And so during worship, I just felt overpowered with the Lord, and I think it really prepared us for a solo, just because we haven't had time to worship, and now it's just all the time in the world.
People were getting words and visions, and personally I just had a really strong experience with the Father's heart, and kind of that's when he gave me where I was supposed to go for my solo. And we kind of started, or I kind of started doing this thing where we say, I love you too, Jesus, already receiving the love that he's given to us. And so I just started saying, I love you too, Jesus, I love you too, God. And he spoke to me, he's like, I know you do, but you don't really understand how much I love you. I go, no, yeah, I get, you love me, God, I love you too. He's like, no, you don't get it. And so, but he's like, tomorrow I'll show you. And so I'm looking forward to the solo, and we'll collect on that.
And so I'm just excited to be with the Lord alone, because I know he can really speak to me in that sense. So I'm excited for the solo.
There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen, but our goal is to part ways, give each other a hug by noon tomorrow. Starting the solo at noon, all day the day of the 6th, until we reconvene the morning of the 7th at around 8 o'clock, 8:30. And we hike to Lightning Lakes.
What the heck is that? All right, I'm gonna throw in an idea, team. You ready?
Can't wait.
Hummus. Ew. Well, see, all I said was hummus, and I was already rejected.
I didn't say anything.
A little bit of bias coming over from this side. Potato patties with a little bit of hummus in to kind of like fill it.
That sounds good.
It's like chickpea potato patties.
Okay.
All right, whatever.
Can you give me the book so I can get the
We are hanging bear bags. Probably the worst part of the trip. You eat, you're all full, and then you gotta go hang these bags in a tree. And I'm already out of breath just talking and holding a big bag. So y'all can just watch now.
You're gonna pre-cook your meals, and then here's how it's gonna work. What food is left is going to be hung in the bear bags, okay? While the rest is going to be with you. And what you do with it is you just get it as high in a tree as you can. And obviously you don't sleep. You're not sleeping with the food. It needs to be 200 feet away from you, okay?
Dude, between that and this little structural number, unstoppable.
Looks like some sort of bear trap.
It is a bear trap.
It's a deadfall.
Just moments before our first solo. We're about to embark on a little over 40 hours of just mano-a-mano time.
Solitude.
Us and Jesus.
So today the solo begins. We woke up. First thing to prepare all of our food for the next 48 hours. We had the students go around and scout the places where they're gonna be having their solo. After we do our food, we're gonna lay out the maps and we're gonna just give people about 45 minutes to go and find their place. Tasha, you're over here, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna come over here to bake. Alright.
And then we divided up all the cookware and shelter. So basically dividing up the tent so that each person would have shelter.
I'm excited about the solo. I feel excited. It will be a chance to just quiet my spirit before the Lord, to be able to focus, also have some rest. We've been going hard, and just rest, be still before the Lord, bathe. Hopefully the weather will be nice, bathe, and yeah, I'm feeling excited about it. I think some of the students are a little nervous. Some students have, certainly never been alone for 48 hours in the wilderness, and not sure how it will be in terms of bugs and marmots and, other potential hazards, bears. But the way we have it set up is that Josh and I have them show us on the map exactly where every student is going to be, and then we check on them twice a day. We have a system where we use bandanas and color codes in order to make sure that students are doing well. And we don't physically go up to them, but we get close enough to check on their bandana and make sure that everything is good. So
the bandanas are going to be super important for this solo, okay? Red in the morning, 3 o'clock, you do your yellow bandana or your blue. Okay, so make sure your guys' flags are visible. We prefer them out in an open space, high up where we can see them on a trekking pole, but if they're gonna be on a tree, make sure they're super visible, okay? Like Merritt's is fine right there. You might wanna put it out more in. Like, don't put it inside the tree, but right on the edge of the...
The more visible you make it, the more we'll be able to leave you alone. If we can't see your flag, we'll have to come find you.
Will, how do you feel about the upcoming hours?
We're good. I've been scrounging food all day. Just looking around, picking up berries and grasses. Found myself pretty good mixture in this bag.
No. Will, why are you?
I did some fishing. I did some my fish I caught.
You seem to be nesting like in wild animals. Why are you doing this? How are you going to eat?
I mean, nesting. I'm collecting.
Collecting?
Like hunter-gatherer.
Oh, I get it.
There's wild animals out there.
How do you feel about the upcoming hours?
Hours?
That we'll be alone.
Days. It's alone for days.
Right.
So, should get louder the closer I get to it. You dropped one.
Yeah, I'm
Go on,
allergic
go on,
to
eat
being
it.
alone. Just the thought of it makes me want to break out in hives.
You won't be alone. Meet this guy, no, it's pretty cool.
I think merit really keeps me grounded in certain situations because I know whatever situation I'm in, and internally I'm having to deal with, it's I can always just count on Merritt making me feel better about my situations. I think she's staying kind of where we all started. She's not hiking out. So we're all gonna meet back and like meet her there. And so, you know, I have full faith in her that she will survive and she will thrive in her situation.
Our sleeping arrangements during the solo sometimes cause a bit of anxiety for students because everybody does have some form of shelter to protect them from the rain, but not necessarily a tent per se. So we have, one of the students is going to be able to have the bug net, which is the thing with the pole and the zipper, and for some reason students feel more secure in that. But then the other two in the sleeping group, the tent group, will have a rain fly, and then we packed in tarps to use specifically for the solo so that everybody has some form of protection. But if it were to rain, we teach the students how to wrap up in your rain fly or to wrap up in your extra tarp, and it's essentially, we call it a burrito wrap, because you're basically getting your head covered and all of your feet covered and your things inside of you to keep from getting wet. So in the event of a storm, you're dry, but you're not in a traditional tent.
Let me just tell you about this thing called a burrito wrap. I like to call it the death wrap.
Why is that?
Hold on, I don't like this hat. Well, let me just tell you what I envision as a solo, okay?
So wait, I'm stuck on this burrito wrap thing.
I'm gonna tell you. I'm doing a comparison here, okay? All right, so I envision I got a tent. I'm next to a little lake, you know. Maybe I've got maybe I've got my iPod, jamming to some REM, Widespread Panic, whatevs. You know, I see the stars at night. I'm bathing with my Dr. B's, just chilling, okay? So that's what I'm envisioning, right? I don't have an iPod, but that was kind of a stretch. So then I wake up this morning, a little excited, you know? And Schwa over there tells us about this thing called a burrito wrap. And basically, you take your bug net and you wrap yourself in it into a burrito. And that's what you sleep in. I can't really even describe it. It's just not a shelter.
Well, can you? Is there a way to fashion this?
I tried. I used my trekking poles, and it was a disaster. So then Schwa comes over there and is like, "This is how you make the burrito." I'm like, Schwa, where am I gonna read? Where am I gonna put my stuff? Where am I gonna hang my Justin Bieber poster? Like, there's no place. I have no home.
Did you follow the directions on the second shelter?
Well, I'm a little agitated because I want to actually go on it.
Why aren't you gone already?
Because on everybody's back, rendezvousing around this whole countryside.
Are they off bumbering?
Bumbering, I guess.
Not gonna say who, but one starts in R, ends in Obby. The other one starts in an A, ends in Thunny. The other one starts in an M and ends in Hat.
We don't blame shift here.
I'm not blaming shift.
I know, I'm saying, we don't blame shift. So we don't blame them.
They're over there and we're not.
Maybe they didn't get the memo.
Oh, well, we already talked about
Schwa, how do you think we're going to do on our solo?
Great!
You want to save me for those crackers?
I can't even find my lunch.
How do you think Merritt's going to do with the burrito?
Merritt is gonna, well, her gas will turn into a bean burrito.
Don't say that on camera!
I'm playing Merritt. MT is gonna do awesome, right?
I'm gonna cry probably like 3 times.
Don't cry too loud because I'm just up the hill.
There you have it.
Bothered on my
We're about to go on our solo.
Really looking forward to the solo, to just kind of get out into the wilderness and see what God has in store.
I have a sense that he's going to visit us, and it does make me a little nervous.
Planning on, I don't know, we'll just see what happens. Got a good feeling about it, and yeah.
Just give a shout out to my parents. Love you, Mom and Dad. Hope I'm making you proud. Alex, Rachel, all my friends. Love you guys.
I know that the Lord is going to reach out and touch all of us in certain ways. And whenever that happens, you never leave the same. And it's a great thing, but it's scary because the Lord will strip you down of what is worldly and stuff. And there are always these like pockets that we hold on to, and the Lord has a desire to take us to higher places. And I'm excited for that. That's why I came out here. But when it's about to happen, you never really know what the Lord is going to reveal exactly.
Mano y mano. Here we go.
Day 19, which means it's the second day of the solo.
In my dream, like, I just wanted to be back there, and like, I woke up and I was like, Lord, like, how is that even possible? Why would I ever trade partying and that crazy lifestyle I was in for all of this? It just doesn't get any better than this.
Good throw. It's a figure 8. I don't know how that happened. It's a rope trick.